Hi, this is Ed Rising, and welcome back to Ed's Pop-O-Matic Podcast, a retro pop culture podcast where everything retro beats anew when you keep it in your heart. Today we have a really special show for you. We have special guest Luca Perasi, who is an author, and he has recently issued his new book, Paul McCartney Press to Play, that 80s unmistakable sound. Welcome, Luca. How are you today?
Well, thanks, Ed, for inviting me to the show. I'm fine. It's a sunny day. Everything is good. Late summer here in Italy, but still good weather. So it's always a good feeling.
Super, especially the good feeling. Press to Play has become over the last number of years one of my favorite McCartney albums, and so I was
Hmm.
very intrigued. Hold on, what happens? I did something wrong here. Hold on, bear with me a second. Okay, a little editing issue. Sorry. Okay, but anyway, it's become one of my favorite records. I really like I like Paul McCartney when he's doing his traditional voice, is but I also like it when he does the experimental work, and he doesn't really get enough credit for doing that as often as he would, as I like him to. But he does come through with a lot of that on this particular record. So I wanted to ask you, Luca, a couple of questions about how you got started, um, being a Beatles fan and a McCartney fan.
hmm Well, I was born in 1969, and the first, let me say, meeting with the Beatles was in the summer of 1982. So I was around 13 because my parents bought on cassette uh, the blue compilation. Oh, sorry, the red one, the red compilation. And so, well, we were listening to the tape on the car, and I admit I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to really say I liked the Beatles because to me they were sort of the music of my parents or something like that. So I didn't want to admit. But then something happened, and 1982, 83, I was a big Michael Jackson fan.
Okay.
And around the time of my birthday in late November 1983, I asked my mother to pick up the latest record by Michael Jackson, which was Say, 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 the single that he did with Paul.
Right.
And so she came back with a record, Pipes of Peace. And so I was a bit disappointed. I noted that there were only two tracks with Michael Jackson. So, okay, I listened to the record and I liked it. I liked the
Yeah.
melodies. I liked the songs. Maybe not all the songs, but well, Pipes of Peace was another uh, quite successful song and video, also in Italy at the time.
Mm.
So I came to appreciate Paul McCartney, and that was the start of everything. Because in a few months, I didn't care at all anymore about Michael Jackson, and I just wanted to discover. Which I mean, I don't want to sound rude. I mean, I love Michael Jackson, and I was
Sure.
an incredible artist, and I love lots of his records. But something clicked, and I wanted to discover more and more about Paul. And so, yeah, I think over 1984 and 85, I managed to buy everything he had published up to that point.
It's interesting you say that, Luca. I mean, I think it's quite normal to not necessarily want to outwardly admit that you enjoy the music of your parents. Like, for instance,
Yeah,
me with Sinatra. It took
yeah.
me decades to really appreciate Sinatra, and then I could just talk about that with my parents and enjoy it with them and my friends who had become Sinatra fans even before me. And so yeah, so it's interesting that you have that situation,
Hmm.
and but then also to have a matter of another artist overwhelming your feelings for another artist that was a hit, a hot hit maker at that particular time. I mean, Michael
Hmm.
Jackson, nobody could be hotter than Michael Jackson. I don't think anybody since Michael Jackson has been as hot.
Yeah, I mean, it was been 13, 14 years old. It was impossible to not be fascinated by Michael Jackson at the time. It was
Yeah.
impossible. So, yeah, I'm grateful because through him, I managed to know Paul McCartney and his music. So,
Did you get to see Broad Street when it came out?
no, the film in Italy, I think, was out in just a few cinemas, so I wasn't able to see it on screen at the time. No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I think it was too
So
short. It was too short a time, so I can't remember if there were one or two cinemas in Milan, my city, where they screened it, but I didn't manage to see it.
it's unfortunate because Broad Street um was a significant failure for Paul McCartney as far as public opinion is concerned, as far as a lot of the critics were concerned. But I mean, if you can take the consideration that McCartney is not an actor, he's not a screenwriter, he's a musician, and he
Hmm.
made an album, he made a film about that experience in a very fantastical situation. I thought it was quite a good film, and having Paul McCartney on screen for roughly 80, 90 minutes, I'll take that any day, you know? Or
Mm.
anybody does that. It was Tiffany Swift, not Tiffany Swift, Taylor Swift. If Taylor Swift
Mm.
made a movie like that, I'm sure every one of her fans would run to go to see it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a film that makes sense because it's a musical story. I mean,
Yeah,
it talks about music, which is exactly why we love Paul McCartney. It's not a movie in the strict sense of him doing I don't know other things. Is singing, is playing, is doing stuff,
yeah.
and it's a nice little English movie. I think the time will come for
And
Broad
the
Street
funny
to
thing you say
be.
about the English, because I think a lot of the humor was lost on particularly Americans, because there's a lot of very subtle
Yeah,
English
yeah,
humor in that
yeah.
film. So anyway, but this kind of set up Paul going into his next recording venture, because he'd had the tug of war, Pipes of Peace. He'd had success with them, but he also got considerable backlash because Ebony and Ivory and Say Say
Hmm.
Say were very safe, very pop, middle of the road almost type singles.
Yeah.
And well, Paul McCartney had always been recognized very much by as a Beatle in the rock and roll public. But if you even look at the McCartney's work with the Beatles through the years, he did everything. He did everything from 1964 on up.
Hmm.
It wasn't just rock and roll. It was some jazz influences. It was some classical influences. There was a lot of standard influences.
Yeah.
Ballads and all kinds of things and he created a lot of different types of music during his time with the
Hmm.
Beatles. So why should he be pigeonholed into having to do one thing? And the same with Wings. You look through the
Yeah.
Wings catalog. There is significant rock and roll, but there's a lot of pop. And
Yeah. The variety of McCartney's catalog and genres of music, it's unparalleled. I mean, it's really a fantastic thing, and it's one of the things that attract me the most. I remember doing these little cassettes, even for my friends at the time, and there was a comment by a friend of mine that stuck with me. He said, "Well." all the songs are so different from each other. I mean, they're so different,
Yeah.
which I mean is not that common because of the arrangements, because of the melodies, because of the influences, all of that. And it's something I love so much. Maybe because I get bored very quickly when it comes to music, and so I need something to click within a few seconds.
Are you a Brian Wilson Beach Boys fan?
I love Brian Wilson and Beach Boys. Yes.
Because Brian writes very much in that style as you just described. He gets bored with anything for
Yeah.
one for too long, and then he has to switch it into something else, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you about Paul's psyche during this time. I mean, it must have been a
Hmm.
blow. And so he goes into this new record. Um, it seems to be a well, on your book, by the way, just to show it to everybody once again. Paul McCartney. Hold on. Paul McCartney Press to play That Unmistakable Sound by Luca Perasi. Go out and find it in your Amazon or wherever else you can find it, and we'll give you more details on that in just a little bit. But no, but seriously, go out and get this book. This what's interesting about it is how you really get us actually into the recording studio with Paul McCartney, and you see that he's taking the chance of using his new studio, which was Hog Hill Studio.
Mhm.
He built that near his home, and he was using a lot of new instrumentation, a lot of new equipment that was all modern and everything. Do you think that maybe having that new environment and that new equipment may have uh, given Paul a sense of insecurity or uncertainty?
Hmm. It's certainly a factor. I think it is, and it's also treated in the book. I mean, one of the reasons why Paul wanted his own studio was because he was losing so much time going back and forth from Sussex to London, and is he was also using or spending a lot of money
Yeah.
at Abbey Road or Air Studios. And so at some point he said, well, for this kind of money, I can build my own studio. And so he did. It, it did it. And on the other hand, when you got your own environment, then there's no limit anymore. So you're
Yes.
in the studio all the time. You got, I don't know, 48 tracks, 96 tracks. Everything is possible. And
Yeah.
so this is an issue when it comes to creativity, when it comes to songs. Songs got to be simple. Uh, mm, it's better for songs to stay
Yeah.
simple. When you add well, you can tinker with everything. You can add instrumentation, you can experiment, and that's a good side of it. The bad side is that you start recording and re-recording and overdubbing a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
after a while, you lose spontaneity, and I think uh, he knew that.
Yeah.
And 1 year of recording for press to play, it's really a long time. And
Particularly
so,
for that time period. I mean,
hmm,
nowadays it'll take an artist 5 years sometimes to make an album. Or whatever they space it out as far as release is concerned.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's very interesting. And in the book you really do detail have a you offer a great detail in regards to the um the instrumentation and what was involved in the recording of the book,
Hmm.
recording of the album. When Paul was looking for a producer for this album, it's very interesting the way that that evolved.
Mm.
And I'm curious, wouldn't you think that he would have a producer on contract? and then he would have
Yeah.
made that decision himself.
Well, I don't know. It's the production issue of Press to Play is one of the key points of the book and of the era,
Yeah,
because over the years, what happened is that um, Eric Stewart said that he was involved as a co-producer, but then Hugh Padgham came in and they got in trouble because it was not clear who really was in charge. So
yeah,
what is
it's really
explained
strange.
in the book is that yes, they started with a batch of sessions in March 1985 with
Hmm.
Paul and Eric Stewart co-producing, working together very closely, so probably also co-producing.
Yeah,
But then they started a completely uh, different batch of sessions in April 1985, this time with Hugh Padgham as co-producer and engineer, because we got to remember that Hugh Padgham is also an engineer. So having this double role probably didn't help. Probably there was a miscommunication between the parties. So that created a strange environment. I call it passive aggressive because when people don't
yeah.
talk directly to each other, then it's a disaster. Um,
Yes,
we
talk
we
more
also
talk, chat more chat. But
yeah,
no.
exactly.
um, interesting.
And well,
Yeah,
the last thing to sum up this side of the recordings is that uh, Paul had blamed himself for being not clear to Eric Stewart about it. So
mhm,
he said it very clearly. I led him to believe that he was co-producing with me, but it was not the case. So
yeah,
something definitely happened, and that's one of the fascinating aspect of the whole work on Press
yeah.
to Play.
And the thing also with Paul McCartney and any artist that was coming out of the 60s by the mid 80s, your life has changed tremendously. I mean, you may continue to record and have hits like singles and so forth and still being Paul McCartney, whoever you might be, but your life goes under tremendous upheaval. I mean, there's
Mm,
marriage, there's children. Just a few years ago, we saw the reissue of the Get Back to videos on Disney Plus, and we saw young Heather Mills, not, excuse me, Heather McCartney,
yeah,
his adopted daughter from Linda, and how adorable she was. And then I remember reading about when during the Back to the Egg sessions, which was about 5 years or 6 years prior to this. And, she'd become a bit more of a radical teenager,
yeah, yeah,
And so it's interesting because now you're being a parent and you have all this going through, and there's a lot of other stuff going on in your marriage and in your life,
sure.
and that has to be reflected in not only your music, but in just in how
Mm,
you conduct yourself. And
yeah,
I saw a lot of things from Paul during that era. Not so much in recent years anymore, but where he seems to have had a bit of a tick where he would be constantly scratching his nose and things like that.
mm,
And
yeah.
was wondering if are you aware that he had any actual real depression? Was he in therapy or anything like that? Or
Um, no, I'm not. I'm not sure about it, but you raise an interesting point because when it comes to communication, no one is immune of sending signals. And that's why I've dedicated a whole chapter to Paul's communication at the time of Press to Play because he was so insecure about the outcome of his album. And it's really very rare, and he couldn't hide it. He couldn't hide it. So there's lots of example I have quoted in this chapter, which
yeah,
I've called with inverted commas uh, the imposter syndrome um, uh,
okay,
communication, and because I think Paul didn't want to really disclose that he was not happy with the album, but he was not happy.
And the thing
So,
is, there's so many really good songs on the album.
oh yeah.
I mean, if you go through the track listing, I mean, Stranglehold is a top is a top little rocker. You know, it's
Hmm.
very much in the same vein as a lot of his other stuff, like Jet even. You know, and then if you go right through, I mean, um, Talk More Talk is a track that he you know, it's a little bit more adventurous.
Hmm.
You know, it's a little bit more
Yeah,
adventurous with tape loops. But again, he's been doing tape loops for God knows how many years. You know,
sure.
so there's a lot of really, really interesting songs on the album. Only Love Remains is my particular favorite.
Oh yeah,
This,
there's lots of material which I think is well, in my opinion, is very strong. Uh, I like Footprints, for
oh
instance.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's a beautiful ballad, beautiful
Yeah,
melody, beautiful story, and a nice and original arrangement as well. You know, it's a the acoustic ballad which
yeah,
we know Paul always likes to have in an album, but with a modern kind of arrangement. There's a
yeah.
Lindrum, lots of synthesizer, and there's the Spanish guitar as well in the same song. So it's very interesting. That's why I wanted to dedicate a book on Press to Play because there's this merge of styles of arrangements. I think it's an interesting album, very interesting.
When you mentioned that you were becoming a fan around the time of Press to Play of Pipes to Peace, which was 1983 release. So would you say um you were Press to Play meant something to you as a young man or a young teenager?
Sure, because it was the first album I have bought as a conscious McCartney fan. You know, Broad
Okay,
Street was a soundtrack that was old material. So the first
yeah.
album with original material I have ever bought by Paul McCartney was Press to Play. So definitely it meant so much to me.
I can
Although
see that.
at the time I thought it was only partly good, but I got some nice memories tied to this album, and over time I came to appreciate more and more. And I have to admit that I have enjoyed a lot writing this book and researching for Press to Play. I enjoyed it immensely, really.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. My folks out there, really, this is packed with information. It's packed with studio session information. So if you want to know who played on this song and when it was recorded and the detail of how it was recorded, this is the book for you. And not only that, but it's got to give you the window into virtually everything he makes, how he works. And so it's really pretty incredible to have this. This is a gift, to be honest with you, Luca. This is a gift because any of us who really just love McCartney and we really want to know who he is inside and how he goes about making his beautiful music. And so you've done that with us with this release. I understand you've also issued other McCartney books or Beatles books,
Yeah,
and could you
yeah,
tell us a little
sure.
bit about that?
Yeah, the big project is this McCartney Music is Ideas series. Subtitle is The Stories Behind the Song. So now I've published volume one, which is 1970, 1989, and volume two, which is 1990 to 2012. And the series will be completed in years to come. And so we got all the songs that Paul ever recorded.
Yeah, that's wild.
Uh, and
When
so
is,
there are
well, I'm sorry, you just released the 1990 to 2012? Did I hear that right?
that was released in November 2024. Yeah,
Okay. And then
volume
the
two.
next one, when do you think the next one would come out?
The next one I'm waiting for Paul's new album to come out, and I'm pretty sure that it will be out within the next 6 months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So after that, I think it will be roughly the time to release Volume 3, which, by the way, I have already uh, written for all the rest.
Yeah.
So I think, but I think it will need some more tweaking. And so these two volumes on McCartney are really the only reference books in the world about Paul McCartney's musical output.
Well, I have them
So
in my Amazon cart. So I have the
yeah,
one, I have the first one in my Amazon cart. The second one I
yeah,
got to put in there. So
yeah,
I'm excited to read more about these things, and I'm glad that you're getting the opportunity to be able to be as detailed. And you're not just writing one book on McCartney's songs. You're writing a series of
yeah,
three now, and that's very
yeah.
exciting and good for his audience.
That's the big series with all the songs and stuff, very detailed. But then I have decided also to do this other series, which is the Press to Play one, which is called Milestone series, which is like going really in depth with an album like Press to Play or Band on the Run, which I have analyzed last year as
Yeah,
well. In the case of Press to Play, I was lucky because I conducted lots of interviews myself. So I was able to talk with Hugh Padgham. I was able to talk with Carlos Alomar, with Jerry Marotta, Graham Ward, another drummer. So there's many people I've interviewed exclusively for this book. So you find lots of original contribution and not only a list of other sources, which by the way are duly noted, and they are very interesting because you always know which is the source of what I'm saying, I'm reporting in the book.
it's cool. And the fact that we also getting to learn a little bit about some of these musicians that are not necessarily always associated with
Mm,
Paul, like Jerry Marotta, for instance, and so forth. But let me ask you a question about the fact that Paul is doing in this album, Press to Play, and he continues to do that on virtually every album since then. He'll work with somebody he's never worked with before.
mm,
A new producer,
hmm
some new musicians, his band that he's had now that's over 20 years old. Um, but he's bringing in people that aren't necessarily have an experience with him.
mm,
That's that has to have a certain effect on the musician. I'm working with Paul McCartney and getting past Paul McCartney, the Beatle, and Paul McCartney, the musician at this moment,
mm.
and how they are able to relate to that.
It, obviously, it's a difficult aspect for everybody. Then it depends very much on the character. There are people who are more agreeable, which is dangerous, in my opinion, when you deal with someone like Paul McCartney, because I think the you have two ways of dealing with Paul or someone like him. Um, you can be the type as Elvis Costello or someone else who's very tough, very, as Paul said, opinionated, very straight. And so Paul could be uh, taken by surprise, but at the same time also admired that you have the courage to say things very clearly.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you got to be a gentleman as George Martin, but you got to be at the same time very competent
yeah,
and uh, telling anyway the truth, but
yeah. It's
maybe
definitely a rock and a hard place, really.
maybe in a gentler way, but the truth. If you don't say the truth because you want to please him or because you fear that maybe you're going to lose your job if you say the wrong word, then you're already out, but you're in, and then it's a bigger problem.
Yeah, yeah. But if I look at the track listing of the album, and I've like I mentioned a short while earlier, I really do like a lot of what he was doing here. I do like the experimentation. I like the different sounds from the musician. By the way, I'm not a musician. So
Hmm.
a lot of sometimes some of the detail of the different synths and the different machinery and so forth was lost on me, but that's okay. I'm not a musician. That's fine. If a lot of other people really are, and they're gonna really enjoy getting into all that. But couple of songs I wanted to mention to you. Um, Now the Pretty Little Head track is got to be one of the most interesting things he's ever done, and I love it. Initially I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then I was like, "Wait a minute, what is he doing with this? And how is this all coming together?" And you made an interesting remark on that track. Now, Pretty Little Head was on site to Press to Play, and it is like I said, an experimental track. And you mentioned that it came out of another track that he was working on called "It's Not On." I
No,
think on the pipes
that's
and piece. I'm sorry, go ahead.
uh, no, sorry, I interrupt you just because are you talking about Talk More Talk? Because that's the song that the re that's
Oh,
it's
so it's Talk More Talk.
that takes from It's Not On. It's Talk More Talk. Yeah,
Okay, all right. I have to
that's
go back and listen to "It's Not On"
it.
again.
It's Not On has got a piece of melody that you then the phrasing and the tempo and this kind of things are a little bit different, but the melody is there, and
Oh,
it's a
so I'm sorry, I
basis.
had the wrong track. Yeah.
No problem. And it's a basis for Talk More Talk. And it's interesting the way that Paul likes to go back to his earlier ideas and then
Right.
shape them into something completely different.
Right, and that's where we got some of these cool medleys every now and again,
Yeah,
because he'll take another idea and he'll say, "Oh, well, let's slap this onto here," and it works. And sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it works, And
sure.
and
It's
I've
it's an
got
art. It's an art in itself to pick all these little things and put them together. It's not easy.
like for instance, the Good Times Coming, Feel the Sun, which is the second track on the album. Initially I was like, this is a bit of a fluff piece. It's not that interesting, but okay, why is it the number two track, But then, the more you listen to it and you hear the guitar and the instrumentation to it, and I'm like, you know what? He really has some really interesting ideas here, music is ideas. And
Mm.
um and it does fit together very nicely. So yeah, um I wanted
Yeah,
to
that there's a spectacular job by Carlos Salomar on guitars here. I mean, it's in both tracks of the medley. I think the guitar sound is really incredible, so different from one part to another. I like it very much.
I wanted to just share with you a couple of my favorite tracks from the album. I liked Pretty Little Head.
Hmm.
And I liked the whole Errol Flynn line, excuse me, we'll see you in a while or whatever the line is. And then I think he kind of incorporated that into another video where he was talking to some group of fans and he was at his trailer or something like that, and then he just kind of said, "Oh, will you excuse us for a while?" And I was like, that was kind of cool. But I mean, I like that because I like Paul McCartney when he's being funny like that.
Yeah.
Um, and there was, you know, however absurd, which is
Mm,
just such a cool track. I just
very cool
love that. I
track.
just love all the just the way that he uses a lot of opposites to describe something.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Pretty Little Head or Absurd. There are other two very experimental tracks because um, Pretty Little Head was just an instrumental jam for months, and then
Yeah.
they added vocals and stuff, and they built this song, which is very interesting. Again, there's a nice bed of percussion and electronic drums with Paul playing drums, electronic drums,
Yeah.
And however, Rhapsody does a very nice touch on the vocals. I think it's a flanger or something like that, an effect, very peculiar effect. It's not the same uh, clear, the old clear vocals by Paul. It's very affected. Also, the bass sounds different, and press to play sounds different.
It
There's
does.
experimental stuff, but there
It
are
does.
also this big uh, guitars. I mean, the sound of guitars is very hard, and it's not that common in Paul's albums. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there is a variety of nuances that um, makes the album very interesting, unusual, and different.
Do you think that Paul was somewhat intimidated by the new British invasion that had been happening in the in the early mid '80s, such as Duran Duran and Wham and Culture Club and things like that?
Um, I'm not sure if intimidated is a right word, but uh, he had an eye on them. He wanted to understand what was going on, and definitely Press to Play was an attempt to stay contemporary, stay relevant, regardless of the fact there was this new wave of groups that you mentioned. uh, it's always difficult to keep up with the news in the musical
Yeah.
um, business, in the musical side. So he had to do something. After the trio of albums that you have mentioned at the beginning, Tug of War, Pipes of Peace, Broad all with George Martin, he had to risk and to do something different.
He
Although
did.
we all know it was not a successful album in commercial terms, Press to
Yeah.
Play,
Yeah.
but it was the right move. Just shake it up a bit and do something different. I think it was a brave move, and the brave move, the right move to do at the time.
Right on. And I wanted to ask you about the press track. Now, for me, that was not a necessarily huge radio hit, but it was a big uh video hit on VH1 here in the States. Would you say that was a popular video back in Italy?
It was very popular. Yeah, I remember even the Press to Play album, I think, reached number 8 in the Italian charts, which, well, maybe it's not significant as the US charts as well. But Paul was very popular at the time in Italy, and the Press video was all over the place. I mean, it's
It's great.
a nice video. It's very simple, uh, very very fun.
It
So I think
is.
it was a nice video because it shows Paul um, in contact with uh, common people, the average person on
Yes.
the tube, and so it was a nice idea.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it very much myself. In fact, I got into trouble, and not serious trouble by any means, because I'd have my Walkman or whatever iPod or whatever I had, and I'd be listening to music, and that song would come on, and I would be on the subway here in New York, and I would be like, "Hey, hey," you can't do that, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But your
yeah.
mind kind of goes into that whole experience that he was
Sure.
having riding the subway and girls giving him a kiss and things like that. That was great. I just
Yeah,
love
yeah.
all that. And I like the song. I mean, it's an infectious tune. It's got what we called on a hit record. What was the term? Oh, sorry, I'm losing it for the moment. But it had what I but the we should have been a hit record. You know,
Hmm.
it was great, and you know you can excuse the line Oklahoma was better.
Hmm.
Oklahoma was never like this, but you know, screw it.
Yeah,
It was a
the
funny
song
line,
is
you know.
catchy. That's got lots of hooks and stuff, and I think it works.
Hooks, that's the word.
Hooks. I think it works. Don't know if the timing was the best because it was launched in at the end of July, something like that. It's a very summery kind of song anyway.
Yeah,
I think it has a good feeling. It's very positive and stuff. So it's another interesting thing. Also instrumentally, there's lots of things that you got to discover, and I hope the book could help you to focus on the musical side of it.
right on, right, absolutely. And there's the book right there again, Press to Play by Luca Perasi, The Unmistakable 80s Sound. So, before I let you go, just a few more things to discuss. I wanted to also let you know that Only Love Remains is a song that should be a wedding standard. Absolutely gorgeous song.
It's a
And
gorgeous song, yeah.
I would have loved to. Now, I wanted to ask you if you could share with us a top 10 list, if you have one, of Paul McCartney's favorite, of your favorite Paul McCartney songs.
Okay, so there are many songs in McCartney's catalog, so
Mm,
I'm going to list 10. It's a bit random, but I mean maybe
okay,
it's not the right order, but definitely these are 10 songs I like so much. Maybe I'm amazed.
okay.
Monkberry Moonlight, Another Day, The Back Seat of My Car,
Oh, great song.
Little Lamb Dragonfly, Bluebird, Put It There.
Yeah.
Um, well, now I missed three. Daytime, Night, and Suffering.
Yeah, good one.
Um, and there's The Pound is Sinking,
That's a great track.
and maybe something more classic, No More Lonely Nights.
Yeah. You're a
But
melody man.
if you ask me tomorrow, if you ask me tomorrow, I'm not sure the list would be exactly the same. No,
Hey, that's the way it is with me too.
I'm a melody man, but I mean, when it comes to something like Daytime, Night, and Suffering, it's a melodic rocker. But
Yeah.
man, these vocals, this screaming, Monkberry Moon Delight, I mean, uh, those vocals again, there's everything in Paul's music that uh, someone can really discover. You can discover the melody. You have the screaming. You have the Little Richard side. You have
Mhm.
the balladeer. Then you have Elvis. There's Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
And there's everything.
That's fantastic. That's good. You know, Monkberry Moonlight is not one of my particular favorites because I just seems to be a little bit too silly, but I do enjoy the crazy rock vocal he gives it. So oh, this has been great. I'm really glad that you came on with us today,
Oh,
and I want
thank.
to wish you all the success in the world with Paul McCartney Press to Play, that unmistakable 80s sound, recently released, available on Amazon. Where else can they get it?
I think Amazon is the only dealer so far, but they can also reach me directly through the my website or my social media, and we're able to ship copies directly.
And social media, you do
Instagram, X, Blue Sky, Facebook,
excellent.
everywhere, everywhere.
Everywhere. He's all over the place, man. That guy Luca Perazzi right over here. Fantastic. All right, obviously he's over here. The way the I can't I whatever. You know where you are. Anyway, I want to thank you again for being our guest today on Ed's Pop-O-Matic podcast, a retro pop culture podcast where everything retro beats anew. You can find me, Ed Rising, on Facebook. and you can find videos like this on YouTube. We're also on iHeart and a few other places like that. So you can and Spotify. And so you can find the podcast or the video cast. The YouTube is probably the best place because you can actually see us. If you can't
Yeah.
stand even looking at me, but you can see a lot of good interviews. We've been talking to a lot of Beatles authors, and we've been talking to a lot of different pop culture people and music, and we talk a lot of things about the Partridge Family and the Osmonds, and we concentrate mostly on the 70s and the 60s, and we're trying to get into the 80s. That we're working on that now. This is a first for the 80s, and so
Great.
I want to thank you very much for being on, and all of you guys watching and enjoying the podcast. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Ed, for the invitation again. I enjoyed it
Thank
so
you,
much.
Luca. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.